Stayed so clean out
Oh,
in the
really?
suburbs. Oh my god, it was so much nicer. Like I feel like the city is so much dirtier than I realized. Like she's always just shades of gray, and I have to wipe her, hose her down every morning after the park.
Oh, really?
Yeah, being in the burbs with all like the grassy fields and everything. Like
Oh,
I hate
sure.
to sound like a suburbanite, but it was great. She was super clean, and we did so much recall work, and she was a champ.
Excellent.
And she went to a bridal shower yesterday, and people could not believe she was 8 months old. But then two of my cousins were there too, and they were like, "No, we all go see Jesse the trainer now."
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was that side of the family.
That's funny.
Yeah. Everyone's like, "Oh my God, who is this Jesse?" And we're all like, "He's the best."
It's funny because I'm working with you guys, right?
Yeah.
Like that group of people.
Mhm.
I got another group over here. It's become the same thing.
Oh, it's funny. It's like the circle.
Yeah, because I actually trained two dogs. One lived in Lakeview, one lived in Gold Coast. And then they moved, they both happened to move to Lincoln Park here
Oh, funny.
and ran into each other
Yeah.
and started talking. They're like, oh yeah, I trained with Jesse. And I'm like, yeah, I trained with Jesse. So there was those two, and then both of them sent me like 3 or 4 other people.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, just, it's
Can't even believe how busy. Well, it's so fun. I hear Wayne and Colette and Winnie are taking the Monday at 4:30 slot. Wayne told me this morning when I saw him.
Oh, really?
Because he was like, okay, so wait, your what time and when is your last one? Okay, we need to grab that. Then he was like, babe, we need to do that. We need to email Maria right now.
Oh,
Yeah.
really? That's funny.
Yeah. Because they're getting married in 2 weeks. So they
Yeah,
wanted
yeah.
to wait till after the wedding to start
Correct.
Winnie. But he was like, wait, Monday's at 4:30. Yeah, we're going to totally take that slot. It was so funny.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, yeah, they told me about that. I remember the last time I met with them.
Yeah.
Good. Well, glad to hear it. How's she doing, like meeting new people and stuff?
She's been really good with that. Still cautious of new people, like all the new people at the shower yesterday.
Yeah.
But she was fine. She did good. She doesn't let new people pet her necessarily, but then my cousins or like my one aunt who she had met before, like acknowledge them. One of them, my cousin met her when I first got her before we ever started training with you, and she didn't recognize her at first. Like Luna was scared of Kathleen, and then as soon as she realized she knew her, she like went up and like Kathleen pet her, which was good.
Yeah.
So it's just her initial meeting, which I'm okay with. I don't mind if she's cautious of new people. I guess I'm not thinking that's something I need to correct. I'm glad once she knows you, she's better. She's been so good at not jumping on my mom and I. So usually every time I leave her alone and come home, I've told you this before, it's like a soldier returning from war. She just can't believe I'm home and how lucky she is. And she jumps and she kisses and she hugs, which I used to allow. And lately, because I watched Maddie do a video of it with Rudder.
Sure.
So I watched her make him stay calm while she puts her sunglasses on the counter, puts her phone down, and then they can have a little fast. So I've actually been doing that with Luna, and she's been doing great.
Good.
So yeah.
Anything else?
The only thing she's not great at is maintaining place for more than like 10, 15 minutes.
Okay.
We've been working on it, and she's fine, but she's not great. My only concern is putting her on an airplane.
Okay.
In the next 2 months, 3 months, I'd like to try to get her on an airplane, a short flight first, but I worry about her being on a plane for an hour. Even if I just do if I fly down to Indy just to test her out,
Sure.
I don't want to overburden Indy or Green Bay. I gotta go somewhere that's like a 50-minute flight, but I want to make sure she is okay and she can maintain it.
Okay. I'm not sure what the flight rules are with. I know service dogs can go.
She's an ESA, so technically she can.
Okay.
Yes, I have all that documentation. I just pay for a seat for her.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then, you could technically use a place command. So to fix that, like, okay, let's say you place her, she's there, and she tries to break off. What are you doing to correct it?
So I keep the leash on. She gets a tap and a leash adjustment. That's it. And then I put her back in place and tell her to place again.
Okay.
And then she usually breaks before I can tell her to break. Her stamina is not what it should be.
Okay.
She hasn't really calmed to it. She did it like one time. She was
Okay.
which would be the goal. I mean, for her to acknowledge that that's the place. But yeah.
Okay. So it's actually a pretty simple answer. Her age, energy level, all that stuff doesn't matter. Okay. It's just it's like me growing up as a kid. If like mom had friends come over, she's just go to your room. It didn't matter if I play all day. It didn't matter if I didn't see my friends for a week, whatever. Just go to your room. I don't want you running around being a brat. Okay. Same thing for the dog. So, what's your working number inside the home?
Oh my God, like a 30.
30?
Yeah,
okay.
lower. Yeah.
So, there's two things I would alter. One, you place her, you start it. Okay. Let's say she breaks off the position. You don't want to repeat place. Okay. You just start tapping.
Okay.
Okay. You would use your leash very subtly to get her to go back, but ideally she goes back on her own.
Okay.
And I actually have a video I can send you where a dog, the dog's very anxious and kept breaking off the area. So it's a good video for you, like to give you an idea. Like, oh, okay.
Okay.
But every time she would ramp it. So like it started like at 30, then it was 35, and 40, 45,
Okay.
50. Then finally she hit like 75 or something, and then the dog stayed there for the rest of the 20 minutes.
Okay.
But in the beginning, it was like he was there 5 minutes and he would walk off.
Okay.
Because he was so anxious. So all we did was you let the behavior happen, or the thought process. You start tapping. If she retracts, we're good.
Right.
If she breaks off, we keep remoting. I lead her back. I bump it 3 to 5 levels.
Okay.
And you keep repeating that. And eventually, you're gonna reach a level where she's like, "Oh crap! Like 55. I don't like that." And then she stays there for like an hour.
Yeah.
So it's not so much too much energy or her being a puppy or anything like that.
Okay.
It's just the seriousness of it is not there to make her hold the position.
And I've been verbally repeating when I do it.
Yes.
And
Now,
that's not good. Okay.
the reason for the repeating or the not repeating is the way a dog's brain works is if you say place, you've now issued a command, right? If she gets off and you issue the command again, you're resetting.
Okay.
So you're not saying don't get up in the first place or don't get off in the first place, right? So if I say place, 20 minutes goes by and she tries to sneak off and I remote her, she goes, oh, if I'm on here and I try to sneak off, this automatically happens.
Okay.
So the only way to avoid it is just not to move off of the place now. Okay. But if you say place and she goes back, yes, she did it, but you reset.
Right.
So then I see it all the time with sits, with downs, with stays, with place. People will repeat and they'll say the very thing that you're saying. They'll say like, oh, I have to say down 100 times. The dog doesn't stay down because you keep saying down. I just correct it. Okay. So it's like if you don't want to get corrected, do not step off of the area.
And then you usually, if I tap her and she doesn't go back to place, that's when you leave.
Correct.
Otherwise, you try to let her figure it out herself.
Correct.
Okay.
Like, and in the video, you see me because the dog ends up running to me, and I grab the leash, but you see me very lightly hold it, giving very little direction, and the remoting and the increasing the remote makes the dog go back.
Okay.
And you see the dog even start to become. This dog has 50 owners and stuff, so he's muzzled and he has so you can start him growling and stuff. So don't worry about that because that's just that dog. But he started getting frustrated because we were going higher, and he's like, I don't want to do this. And then finally, he's like, all right, fine. And he gave up, and then he held it for 20 minutes. Okay. So that's all part of the process. I think for her, as you start to escalate it and you get the right number, she's going to run back and she's just not going to move. Okay. And then you go up, and I'll do things like picking up the leash without releasing her, because then dogs will assume, oh, you're picking up the leash, you're going to let me go, just to test her, and they'll drop it and walk away again. Or come by and pet her randomly, walk away again, to really test that. But first, you have to get the stationary part done first before you can implement the distractions. Okay? But yeah, that's an easy one to fix. Now, does Luna have any concept of down?
She does.
She does?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you see if she'll do it?
Luna, come. Luna, down. Down. Lay down.
So you're tapping here, right? Have you ever tapped her into a down before?
Nope.
Okay. So we don't tap her here. Okay. Because we've not done that yet.
Okay.
But just down her how you would normally down her.
Okay.
Whether if it's with your hand or whatever. Okay.
Put it down. Lay down. Sit. Down. Never done it without food.
You don't have treats on you, do you?
Nope.
Okay.
Lay down. Lay down. Can't kiss me. Sit. Down.
Okay, don't worry about it. I can see she has the concept. Though.
Yeah.
So what we're gonna do is you want to grab your back, Bill? Sure. We're gonna scoot over to that gas patch. Sure. We're gonna move over the chair. She only has I think was this number 7 or?
I think this is 7.
Yeah.
You're gonna love him. Yes.
All right. So I'm gonna see if I can coach you through it first.
Okay.
Down is the hardest, or one of the hardest commands for a dog to kind of take in and go into, because you're using pressure to put them in a submissive or vulnerable position. So dogs tend to struggle with it. Okay. Now, right now, that's why because I saw you tapping, and I was like, have you tried it already with remote? And you saw how she kept fidgeting around. is because she hasn't learned down through remote call.
Okay.
So the assumption is for most people, if I teach the dog the command, then I can just simply add in the punisher if they don't do it. And that's not the case. You have to reteach it using the pressure so that she learns how it turns off.
Okay.
So what we're going to do is, what's your number set at currently?
She's at 35. That generally is where I start her working number, and then I increase it as needed.
Okay.
So like when we're doing squirrel recall and stuff, it can be anywhere from like a 35 to a 45.
Okay.
With deer this weekend, she was up to like maybe a 50 sometimes, but she nailed it. Like I would let her chase a deer in a forest preserve because it was raining, so I just had her off leash the entire time, which was awesome.
Good.
She'd chase him for a little bit. I'd call her. She might get a tap, sometimes no tap.
Okay.
So yeah, no, she did really, really good. But one time there was like a mom and a baby, and I think I had to do 50, but nothing higher than that.
Okay, so what happened when you did 50?
Just turn right around and came.
Excellent.
Yeah.
That's the stuff that I want to.
Yeah, and she was further away, and again, we're in this big, beautiful forest. Like she was fine. I could see her. It's just that that was far enough, and so calm tap, came right back. I was so happy.
Very good.
Such a good girl.
So I'm glad to hear that. That's all good.
Yeah.
Okay. So what we're going to do here is let's go down to 25. And you're going to go to relax that right arm. And with your left foot, you're actually going to step in the middle of your leash. You see how you got that little U there? So what we want to create is downward pressure on the flat collar first. Okay. So we're going to get a little bit of a crook on her neck. Okay.
So we're going to do this.
Yes.
Okay.
Shorten it a little bit more so that we get more of a pressure on the back right there. Okay. Now cap. 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 Take up some more leash. Yep. And cap. 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 Almost. Cap. Cap. Let's go 28. She's so close to her. Cap. And praise.
Good, Luna.
We're not going to care about that right now.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's okay that she can hop up off.
Yeah. Okay.
Good, Luna.
Because right now we're just teaching Luna to lay down.
Good, Luna.
Just from the e-pop.
Just for the so the pop up is fine.
Correct. Okay. Now we're going to progress that to where it's lay down, don't move. Sure. But we're going to repeat that 4 more times.
Okay.
Okay. So we'll go ahead and put her in a sitting position.
Luna, sit. Can I do it on this side, or is it better to keep her
Doesn't
on one
matter.
side?
Yeah. No, the side doesn't matter as long as you're able to put your foot on that leash. Yep. Yep. Wait a moment. Shorten a little bit more. Right there. That's good. Yep. Yep. And praise.
Good, Luna. Good, Luna.
Yeah.
Good girl. Good girl.
Yep. Yeah, the girl.
Good, Luna. Good, yes. Good, Luna. Good, Luna. Yes. Yes, I love you.
Okay. We're going to do 2 more.
Let us sit. Oh, sit.
Beautiful.
Good, Luna. Good girl. Good girl.
And 1 more.
Okay, sit.
Now here, so this is fine. What you're going to do is lightly pull up on your leash here, and you're going to tap her to a sitting position. Okay. There you go. And you're going to wait a moment. You're going to let your leash go slack, and then again with the foot. Right there. And praise.
Good girl. Good girl. Good girl.
Excellent. So what we're going to do here is we're going to pause.
Okay.
We're going to let her just kind of process that stuff. Okay?
Sure.
So earlier when you were doing it, right, I could tell she had a concept because when you sat down and you tapped her, she did start to like go like this. But there wasn't enough guidance. So
physical guidance.
Correct.
Okay.
So with the remote, when we were at 35, no physical guidance, but I could see there was a concept. So what ends up happening is the reason why we go lower. Well, one, we always go lower for things when we teach anything new, but also when we're doing stationary stuff like this, where it's lay down, or go into a sit, or go into a stay. If you're too high, higher numbers tend to make dogs move. Okay. So like the heel, the recall, or going to place, I don't care about the number because they're moving.
Okay.
She's either going to a bed, she's walking with me, or she's coming to me. Right?
Sure.
So higher number just makes the dog move faster. But here, with sit, stay, or down, because the dog's going to be stationary, we don't want faster. We need stationary.
Sure.
Right? So then we go lower. Otherwise, higher number will make the dog pop out of the position. Okay?
Oh, because it creates motion. Okay.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
So then we go to 25. And then you put that little bit of guidance. So what helped you was that she actually already had a concept of the down.
Sure.
Okay. If you didn't have that concept, I would have said, this week, teach her down with food.
Yeah.
And then next week we're going to start working on it. We would have done something else. Okay. So, but because she already knew it, and I could see she had an idea, and she wasn't panicking, which was good. So when you sat down and tapped her, she just fidgeted, which when a dog fidgets, that's them thinking. Okay. And I'll explain that in a little bit. So I could see she was thinking, whereas if she was panicking, it would have been like, oh, crap. And she would have been like this, like, what was that for, right? So because I saw her thinking, I go, okay, cool. I'm pretty sure she has a good concept. We're going to try to teach it. Okay?
I love the way your mind works. Like how you're like, well, this is what I noticed and this is what I understood. God, that's fascinating.
I've been doing this a really long time.
Yeah, that's just so cool.
So in horse training, there's a saying, if they're blinking, they're thinking. So when they're trying to teach them something, when they see the horse blinking, they're processing and trying to decipher what it is they're trying to do. Okay? For dogs, they fidget. But the only thing that rhymes with fidget is midget, so unfortunately, I don't have a say.
Yeah, there's no catchphrase.
Yes. So, but when they fidget, I know they're thinking. Yeah. So that's why when I said tap, I didn't say tap, 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 tap.
Right.
I said tap. And she moved.
Okay.
And then I waited. So I'm moving her, right? You want me to lay down? She's sitting, tap, she moved, we waited, she sat down. Incorrect. Tap again, right? She moved.
Oh, I'm going to do what I think Mom wants me to do, but then, no, that's not what I wanted. All right, let me try this.
Right.
Okay.
So every time she stopped moving, she's thinking that's the resolution.
Sure.
Okay, but it's not. So I put the tap again, so then she goes, okay, something else.
Okay.
So then eventually, because we kept taking up that slack, because little by little that head started to go down, I take away the excess so I don't allow this to happen again, and then she's able to go into the down position. Okay. So we're limiting range of motion. So the more slack there is on the leash, the more option there is.
Sure.
So she could walk around and do all these circles and figure eights and stuff. So that's why we shortened the leash and we stepped on it, because it's like you're stuck right here in this box. And in terms of standing and sitting and all that stuff, it's going downward, so I'm limiting more and more for options. And eventually the brain goes into boom, and then we praise. Okay? So because all I care about is the laying down factor, I said, don't worry if she pops up. Because you just like that last one was one tap and she laid down. We were creating ease of response. Okay, one tap, okay, there it is. So before worrying about the next thing, about staying there, I worry about the first thing. Otherwise, you're never going to get to the next thing. Okay, so now that she's got that, and what makes e-collar progress so quickly is because all these concepts are the same. Heel was, if you're going this way, there would be tension because you're going opposite. It's going to guide her this way. With the recall, tension is here. Place, tension here. Up, right? Tension. Now it's down.
Right.
So all these concepts are the same. It's you feel leash pressure, and when you go with the leash pressure, everything goes away. That's why the dogs are able to pick up and like decipher these concepts. It's because it's technically the same thing, just different directions. Okay. So now that she's got the concept of the down, what we're going to do 2 more, just like the way you were. If she prematurely downs, no big deal, and you wouldn't say sit. Just lightly tap up, light pressure up and tap, because what you're saying is don't assume.
Okay.
Okay, wait for me to...
Okay, that's why she can't do that.
Yes, okay, so I don't care what she does really, if she's standing or sitting, I was just up and tap her into it, and then go into that, so that we don't create... We're trying to prevent a pattern from happening, which almost always does happen anyways, which is I sit, lay down. So, we'll do 2 more. If that looks good, then we're adding the verbal cue of down again.
Okay.
and then reinforce it with the tapping, and then we'll talk about how we do this for the extended down. This is what you could possibly also use on the plane. Okay, so one, the seat could also be a place. That's one thing.
I was going to make her stay on the floor just to be courteous. So I was going to buy, like, obviously with her size, I have to buy a seat for her anyway. But, like, assuming, like, I would just have to work myself or whatever, just to keep her on the floor. I don't really want a big furry dog on the seat. I don't care. I'm trying to be respectful of people who aren't dogs.
Sure.
I don't know. I've never had a dog.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if anytime I've been on, I've seen a dog on there. I've definitely seen them at the airport.
Yeah.
But yeah, this. So you have two options technically. If it's like, oh wow, there's no one next to us, I can utilize the seat.
Or I was going to break a towel and the towel was placed.
You could also do that as well.
I've seen both.
Both? Okay.
Yeah. He travels a lot.
Oh, do you see dogs on seats often? I don't want to offend anyone. I get
every once in a while. It's not like super common, but it happens.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
I've seen them in carriers. I've seen them in towels. I've seen them in seats.
I think an 8-pound Chihuahua is a lot less offensive.
Because I used to travel 30, 40 times a year, so.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you've seen it all.
Yeah.
Okay.
You could also just put her in people clothes and try to pass her off.
Weekend at Bernie's it.
This is my daughter. What are we talking about?
So we'll do two more non-verbal downs.
It's a dog turn.
Yeah, right? She's adopted. Please, don't tell her. She's sensitive.
You cover her ears.
Cover her ears. It's okay, Mama loves you. Sorry, two more non-verbal. Good. Good girl. Good girl.
Right, so then light pressure up, correct, right? Good, wait a moment. Yep, light pressure up, yep, yep, yep. Wait a moment. Right. Up. And now go ahead and anchor yourself here, so don't move. Because what's happening is every time you move, you reset, and she's going into that pattern, right?
Okay.
So what we're going to see is just, so here, lightly pull up, tap, and wait. Or just wait here, okay?
Yeah.
I'm going to relax it out.
Okay,
Yep.
yeah, thanks. Yes.
And then I was seeing to see if she would get it, because I
Okay.
know what you were doing, but she kept going into the pattern.
Yeah.
So now you would let your leash go slack. So the reason why we give space between these things is to see, are you going to maintain this position, or are you going to try to lay back down
Try
again?
to do it.
Okay. Now you'll add in the leash pressure. And brace.
Good, Luna.
And girl.
What are you doing? Luna. Luna.
All right. So what we're going to do now is same process, but now when you come to that stop, you're going to get that sit, you're going to wait a moment. Down. Give like a split second for a response. Then you're going to tap.
Okay.
See if she goes into it. If not, you'll keep tapping and then add in that leash pressure.
So if the verbal cue is enough, no tap, no leash pressure.
Correct. Alright, let's tap up and relax. Wait a moment. Tap up. Relax, wait a moment. Up, tap. Yep.
Can I go lower than 25, or is this fine? This
No,
is
you're fine.
normal, what she's
She's
doing.
got it. Yeah. I see this stuff all the time.
Okay.
Because so
I
dogs.
didn't know if she was waiting because she thought she was supposed to be reactive.
No.
Okay.
So what happens is the more we teach, the more obedience commands we teach, the more problems we create.
Okay.
It happens all the time.
Sure.
Because the dog will start going to the last thing they learn. Okay, so like after I teach it down, almost always the owner's struggling with the dog downing all the time. So then we do this up tap to correct it and say like, no, we don't need that right now.
Not all the time.
Wait for us to cue it. Okay, and with us adding the verbal cue, it's going to help clarify things a bit more. Because before it was just like, you sit and I put you down. So
Of
that
course she's gonna be reactive.
yeah. So now that we add in the cue, she'll start to like get the concept of like, oh, I just wait till mom says this word, and then I got to go into the behavior. Okay. So go ahead and cue the word down.
Luna down.
And wait. And brace.
Good, Luna. Good, Luna.
Good. We're going to do that 4 more times. That was good. And there was no tap there, right?
Nope.
Yep. Very good. Right.
Luna down.
Good
Good
girl.
girl.
That's okay for now. 3 more.
Can I SIT before DOWN? Luna sit. Luna down. Good, Luna. Good, Luna. Yes. Yes, you're a good girl.
Good.
Come here.
Good. 2 more.
Can you just DOWN without SIT?
Right.
Luna down. Good girl. Good girl. You're a good girl.
1 more.
Luna lay down. Good, yeah, good
Good.
girl.
So I'm going to have you release her, and then you're going to down her again right here.
Okay.
And then when you down her, we're not going to praise her on this one, okay?
Okay.
We're gonna start talking about duration.
Okay. Hey, mud girl, come here. Oh, you're beautiful. Oh, you're cool. Luna lay down.
Good. Positive. Very good. Down. Wait a moment. See what she does. That's fine. Okay. So, go ahead and with your foot, you're going to just step on the leash. Like right there. Perfect. Okay.
Put pressure on it.
Yeah,
she
you can just
can't
step
move.
normally.
Okay.
Yeah, like that. So, see how earlier you're teaching her down, or not teaching, but you're like trying to use the cue and she wasn't responding, and then we left the word alone, caught it through the remote, and then you said down, and the first one right away just tied it. All those, I think there was no taps on all those, right?
No.
This was the first one because she prematurely
started
sat up.
it, yeah.
Exactly. So, what you did was make a connection because she knew the down with food in a different style. So then I go, remove the word, reteach it. It's something that's already familiar to her, and then the brain goes, oh, I've done this before. It's this, but without the food. And then you brought in the word, and all of a sudden, she's down. Okay. So a couple of reasons for that was one, there's already familiarity, but then two, you had just layered in the pressure, so then she understood the 2 different, like there's more than one style of down. There's down with remote, there's down with food, and there's down with like a visual cue, whatever, and they start to like kind of plug these things together.
Sure.
So that's why I always remove the word, teach the behavior, then go back and then layer it in. Okay. So it should be that quick. Not all dogs are that quick though.
Right.
Okay.
She's very advanced, is what you're saying.
Yes, she's very advanced. She's 18.
Yes, that's what I was like.
AP. So now when we do duration stuff, it's the same in this place, but this is more strict. Isn't that guy again?
Yeah,
the guy on
it's the same guy from
Were you
McGee's.
there?
Yeah,
Yeah, 'cause
same
he
guy
goes-
from
he
McGee's.
goes-
It is the
He
guy.
goes
Yeah.
up and down
Like,
Webster.
you know
'Cause
too,
it-
you're
yeah,
like-
because I was on a work call earlier and I was speaking, so I was not muted. And he came by and everyone was like,
Are you playing Mario?
what was that? And
You
I was
working
like,
right now, or are you
"Oh,
playing
God." And I was
games?
like, I'm so sorry, it's this guy. And thank God it wasn't one of my better call where I actually had to be on. It was just a couple of my colleagues. But I was like, oh my God, it's this guy in a Mario Kart. He comes by every day. Yeah.
It's funny.
But
Yeah,
thank goodness it wasn't a supplier call or something important where I was actually
We were having dinner one night and he comes by and everyone's like, what the
Yeah, we were over at McGee's,
yeah.
and then we walked down. He had just pulled up, and he let some guy drive. Bless you.
That guy goes blasting.
Yeah, I know. I thought the guy was gonna take off.
Yeah.
But anyways,
So funny.
Chicago, you never know.
Dude,
I just heard it, and I was
honestly-
like, "Isn't that guy?"
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the guy.
That's
So
funny.
now I hear it and I'm just like, oh my God, when we were walking one time, he came right by and she was bent out of shape.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
She's like, "Get out of here with that Mario Kart."
Shocker, one of the many things Luna doesn't like.
Okay, so with back to our regular
duration,
schedule
whatever, I know.
program, is place and down are similar in the sense of the duration commands. They're meant for extended use. However, place is lenient. Go here, sit, stand, lay down. I don't care. Just do not step off the perimeter. Down is very strict. There is no exception to this. Now, I care about function, not aesthetic. So some trainers will teach the down, and it has to look
I was going to say.
very pretty, very sphinx.
Are you
This is
saying
okay.
this is not pretty? This is not awkward?
Luna is pretty.
She's awkward.
But the down here, this is a relaxed down. She's
Sure.
got her hips over, right?
Yeah.
This is fine. If she rolls on her complete side, I'm fine with it. She's on her back, I'm fine with it. It's just a down type position.
Okay.
Because if she's going to be there for 2 to 3 hours, get comfortable. Okay?
Yeah.
So, practicing the two, you would never, by the way, I don't like to do place and then down.
Okay.
Okay? Because
Yeah.
what happens is the owner will forget. The owner will place and then down the dog, and it's no longer place.
Right.
It's down. So, she's just downing on place command. So for the owner, they'll like be doing something, and then 30 minutes goes by, and the dog is sitting up or standing, and they forget. And I go, you have to correct that. And they go, why? The dog's on place. I'm like, no, the dog's on place, but then you sit down.
Right.
You have to be down.
Release the down.
Exactly. So that creates gray area or inconsistency for the dog because they don't think about that.
Sure.
So whenever I do place, I just do place. I don't like to just sit her down. If you do it, just be aware of like, okay, she's on the down, not on the place. Okay. You don't need a perimeter for this. It's
Okay.
just lay down.
Sure.
Okay, so if like you go to a restaurant and you forgot your placement or whatever, okay, down. And then
she should be able to duration down. Okay.
Exactly. Okay.
Sure.
Now, if she struggles with the
But now she's not as comfortable, whereas if I have her in place, she knows she can get up, switch sides, sit up. Okay.
right, that's the difference. That's the trade-off. Okay,
Right.
one is more lenient.
Yeah.
It's just do not get off the perimeter. This one's very strict.
Yeah.
So this would be the one that you could technically use on the plane, right? Just down, boom. Or you could actually use your placement as well. You know, your towel.
Yeah, I know.
So there's no right or wrong. Trainers that I've seen, like going that fly on planes and stuff, use the down. Okay. But it's just personal preference. If you're on a flight where like nobody cares about the seat, you could use the seat as place. Okay. Now, if she struggles with place and it's a more lenient command, I'm gonna gamble she's probably gonna struggle with down. Okay. So the duration aspect of things does overlap. So I would opt to, at this point now, practicing more down than I would place. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Because that's going to be the harder one. So if she can do this one, place is easier. Because if her doing a 1 hour down and like a 30-minute place, like the duration aspect of it does overlap. It's just this one's going to be a lot more strict. Okay. So the way I practice it is almost the same as any place. You know, if you're going to be sitting down at the couch instead of placing her, I down her and I step on the leash like this. You know, and if she gets up and you feel that tension under your foot, that tells you Luna's getting up. I would tap her, I would not repeat.
Okay.
She should go back just like she did on this last one, right?
Sure.
She got up, you tapped her, she repositioned and looked that way and laid down. Perfect. That's what I'm
Is dinner tonight too soon because it's still fresh in her repertoire? Like, is it better to do it again tomorrow night because
No.
then she won't just work that down tomorrow?
You could do it as soon as, tonight, but just expect she's going to make more mistakes.
Correct.
Okay, so if it's like, I want to enjoy dinner and not have to worry about Luna, then I'd advise not. If it's just like, oh, it's going to be a lax dinner or whatever, and I want her to come along.
No, oh no, I mean just like eating I usually eat on my couch at my coffee table, and she
Oh,
knows.
I thought you were talking about dinner, like down at dinner at a restaurant.
No, she knows that she just can't bother me while I eat. Her typical command, the reason she knows down, is because when I'm eating, if she's laying down, she can have a treat. But if she's bothering me or she's in my space or taking my food, which she's never done, she's got it pretty quickly. After like that was my really big thing, because I like to eat at my coffee table. This is my place. This is not your place. You can't take my food when it's not eaten, which is a tough thing for a dog. And my last dog did it, so I figured she could do it. And she's pretty good, but it's the whole thing, like, you have to be down and out of my space
Sure.
to be rewarded.
Correct.
That's how we do that, but sometimes she moves around a lot, so I wonder if I could make her maintain it down throughout dinner time.
Yeah, so it would be a little bit more difficult because she is still going to be in your immediate space.
Right.
That's stage one, okay? Which would be, I'm at the coffee table,
Right.
I'm
She's
sitting
on the
down,
floor, on the
she's on the
rug.
floor,
Yeah.
right? So her nose would be right there, right?
Yeah.
But that's where you would step on it as short as you could.
Just
to
short, right, just put
limit.
it underneath my foot or whatever. Yeah.
Yes. Now let's say like she's on the floor and her nose starts coming up a sniff. I would remote it.
Right.
Track her, and then you want to give that space of what are you going to do next. So for this one, when she started to pop up, you tapped her, she got up and spiraled,
And then
sat
just
back
the other
down
way.
and laid down.
Right.
Had you kept tapping, she would have kept moving. Okay? Because remember, you tap to say
Right.
incorrect. She moves.
Once she's settled, if it's not the right settle, then retap.
Correct. Okay. If you feel like she really pops up, too high. Okay, because different setting now. If you're inside the home, I would probably start at 15.
Okay.
You go down lower because there's less going on,
Sure.
less to contend with. And then since it's more subtle, less likely you're going to get that. So also be mindful of that when you remote her. Like if you tap her and it's a really big jolt, you want to go down because that level more than likely is going to make her pop out of position and fidget around. Okay. So then I do this just like I did with the place. If she's in my immediate space, right? I'm there for 30 minutes. Maybe you finish your dinner. I'm going to go put this in the sink. Before you get up, doing a break
Okay.
release. Then get up to go put your plate away.
Okay.
Come back, read down her if you want to.
Okay.
Okay. And you can even down her next to you on the couch if you want.
Sure.
Right? It's just now you have to use your hand or whatever, or just be mindful if she's down here. And I don't care if she puts her head on your lap or whatever. That might be a little bit more testing for her because maybe she wants to lick your face. You know, like earlier when you were there, she kept doing that. And actually happened to another client of mine. She was trying to get her dog down, and she had squatted and went up to lick her face, and she kept promoting him and kept licking her face.
Oh,
so yes, so to be mindful of that. But that's where limiting. So if I did that and I was sitting down and she was down here with her head facing this way, is if she got up, I would choke up right there on that collar and lightly tug down, and tap to settle her, and then go back to what I'm doing. Okay. So every time you're gonna get up for this week, release her prior to getting up.
Don't make her hold it.
Correct.
Just this week.
Correct. Because you're trying to get her used to being there for a period, getting up and tapping to teach her how to correct.
Okay.
So by next week, you down her. 20 minutes goes by. I'm going to move.
I'm going to go refill my drink.
She gets up.
You
tap.
gotta stay.
Yes.
Yes.
But it's going to be a lot easier to
Okay.
correct now because she's already done it for a week.
Sure.
Then you come back, go back to whatever, and then
Okay.
she doesn't.
Thanks for saying that because I would have done the complete opposite
That's
and
what
made her stay. Okay, good.
Everybody
Perfect.
shoots for
Yeah.
put the dog across the room and you're not going to move.
Well, one time we've been working on stay because she's been so bad at it lately at the park. But we've been working on it, and then at the rabbit shower yesterday, I went to go throw something away or do something for someone, and I made her hold a stay, and she did it, and everyone was like, "Oh my god!" I go, "This is the first time she's done that all week." She almost knew you guys were all watching.
Sure.
She nailed it.
Sure. So yeah, we want to work her up to that
Yeah.
level, okay?
Yeah.
Because I appreciate when people shoot, they have a high goal.
Sure.
But it's funny because they'll come back and they'll be super frustrated, the dog's not getting placed. And I'm like, tell me what's going on. Well, I placed him across the room, and then I went over here and had to move him 20 times.
Went out of eyesight.
Yes, and I was like, that's why I said not to do that. They're like, you did? I'm like, yes,
Yep.
because that's what happens.
Yeah.
You do this in stages, okay?
Yeah.
So this is stage one. So for your place, let's say she did well with place this past week, right? And she wasn't moving. Then I would tell you for place, she can hold it and you can go away
Right.
because you've already done it for the week. Down would be at the first stage. So place would be phase 2, this would be phase 1, right? So they're at different degrees
Yeah.
in terms of advancement. But then each week you just go to the next step.
Is it normal for Luna? So this is weird because we're at my parents' house too. So place was in a different place, but you said she can learn multiple ones.
Correct.
So I have a mat for her and a orthopedic mat or whatever in the kitchen next to the couch for her. It's like an open floor. So she understood place meant go to your mat. She just didn't understand routine. So if
Correct.
we were across the kitchen and I was like place and she would barely need me to lead her over. She would understand I have to go to my great bed. She just didn't then stay for more than 5 or 10 minutes. She would stay and then she would be coming to the kitchen and she'd be wanting. I'm 10 steps away from her, but she wasn't maintaining. That's normal.
Correct. That's why I was like, when you put her there, I always do it nearby
Yeah.
to make it easier.
Right there,
Because
yeah.
I'm expecting you're going to make a lot of attempts to get off. So this way it's easy. I just tap and send her back and just go back to what I'm doing.
Right.
So in the video with the client, I'll send it to you. We teach it first because the dog had already had a 2-week reported training, okay? But they didn't teach them. One, they didn't give them a remote collar. The dog was remote trained. But then 2, they didn't teach them anything that the dog learned. So how the hell did you learn what the dog did? They just taught herself. That makes no sense to me. Yeah. So I was like, we're gonna reteach it, right? So that the dog understands it my style, and then so you understand it. So then they taught it, or the girlfriend taught it, and then maybe I think 20 minutes in, after the dog got the concept and we got where we needed, then I started talking to her about application. So for 40 minutes, we're keeping the dog in place, and that's where the struggle was.
Oh,
so I did that
right.
intentionally because I knew the dog was an anxious personality type, and I'm like, he's going to want to keep moving, so I'm going to use the rest of the session to teach the owner this is how we correct it.
Sure.
And you see how, again, very lightly, I don't do much of the leash, we just keep increasing the collar until eventually we hit his breaking point, and then for the last 20 minutes, like, he held it without moving. Okay? So it's the same thing for Luna. So for us at the facility, we do 2 to 3 hour places, like duration stuff, right off the bat.
Okay.
We teach the concept, and then we go, okay, now go here, don't move.
Do you hook them up to the pillars then?
Yeah,
Okay.
because that's what we do to cheat the system.
Okay.
Right? Is because now we can walk away. She can still, or the dog
She
can
can
still
move.
get off,
Yeah.
and then we correct them, and they're like, okay, I got to do something.
Okay.
But they're not reliant on us leading them. But because they're tethered, again, range of motion has been limited.
Right.
That they're going to be like, all right, go back on place.
Yes, I'll stay here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's how we do that.
Can I ask a question about the facility? Does it make a difference who gets a crate versus who gets a bed? Is that different points of their training, or is it's just like the crate is for nap time? Like, how do you guys do that?
Oh, sure.
If I ever send her today, I don't need to right now, but I'm just thinking for the future because she's not crate trained. Would that be an issue?
No, because then we can. It'd be like doesn't want to go in the crate. Tap. Go in the
Now
crate.
she's in the crate. Okay.
But what we do is if the dog's been trained by us,
Okay.
They get an extra option. Okay, so it's either playing, on the walk, in the kennel resting, or doing duration work. Okay.
Yeah,
So
I would see her doing health duration. Like that might be nice.
it would help in the sense because we're doing the same thing you are.
Right.
Right. So for those that aren't trained by us, they just don't get duration.
Sure.
You know, they get to go on the walk. They get to they get
Sure,
the
they
rest
play
time
with their
to play,
friends and
right?
whatever. Yeah.
So it's just they're only missing one part of the day.
Okay.
And duration work. So like it's like with kids. You know, like telling like for me growing up, and my mom used to go to church. Like me being quiet during church was like mentally tiring.
Couldn't do it.
You want to move, right?
Yeah.
That's kid stuff.
Yep.
That's why duration work is effective for dogs because they're like a 3 to 4 year old kid.
Yeah.
That being still for any period of time is challenging for them. So it's not physical exercise, it's mental exercise. Because as you've seen with Luna, I want to move, right? And she's still a pup, right? She's 8 months, so that she's going to have more of that inclination. Or if I have a dog like Leon, who's the dog I was talking about earlier, he's an anxious type. Anxiety wants to move, so then I'm like, all right, don't move. And now the brain is conflicting, and it's very challenging and emotionally, mentally and emotionally challenging. Like for a dog like him, for her it should be mentally challenging.
Yeah.
You know, so that's why we stress it at our place is because it's just another exercise. That's not play, activity.
Right.
It's more of a mental exercise.
Yeah. You play with your friends, and then we're doing duration.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
yeah. I might just do it and send her. She's going to be terrible, but
This
you guys
is
are
Monday.
fine.
I saw it because I saw Nash and Shadow. They're coming on.
Okay,
They come
yeah.
on Wednesday.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we reinforce everything that we've taught,
Yeah.
and then she gets an additional thing, to work on.
I just wonder if it's good for her too, because we've been working on her separation anxiety. I try to leave the house every day, even if it's for 10 minutes, because some days she's great and she sleeps, and some days she cries all the time. And I can't put it with her activity level or how tired she was when I left, or if I gave her a treat or not. There is no rhyme or reason to why sometimes, and I wonder if it's what's going on outside because the window's open. I don't know. Sometimes she just cries and she's like, "Where's my mom?" I'm abandoned. And I've had her since May, and she's still not great with me. I mean, she's fine at being. She's never been destructive. She's never had an accident, like nothing like that. It's just her. I can see because I have nanny parents. I know. I'm curious. I don't want her to bother the neighbors. I don't want her to howl or bark or be a nudge. But so when I watch her, she sometimes seems so agitated. I'm like, man, you've been here for 3 months.
Is it as soon as you leave, or is it like at a time after you've left?
It depends. She's a total mixed bag, so I can't identify any trends.
And it's always whining?
Usually whining, like more of a whine cry than a bark.
Okay. So I was going to say, like for my dogs, right, if I'm not home and they hear a sound, they get to start barking. But then they quiet down once it's all resolved. So they don't stay stuck in it. So if that was happening, then I would be like, I don't think that's separation anxiety. That would be just her triggering with something. But it's not like if she starts whining, because what actually
and then she paces and she goes to the door and then she goes to my bedroom and then she goes back. It's just like a whole thing.
Does she follow you in the home and stuff? Like, is she always with you, or is she independent when you're there? Sometimes
she follows, but not all the time. Like I can go to the bathroom and she'll stay in the living room.
When you leave the home, does she follow you to the door?
Sometimes. So I give her like mini fake rawhides or whatever. She gets a mini one of those, so I don't want to give her too many treats or snacks, but so she gets a mini rawhide and she usually lays on her little bed by the door. It's just like, it's it's 12 square foot apartment, so it's not like there's a ton of space for her to go. But give her one of those. She lays on her bed right there, usually facing the door. Sometimes she eats it. Sometimes she goes to the door and whines and then eats it later. Sometimes she eats it and then falls asleep and is totally fine. Like again, it's like I can't notice any patterns, which is the weird thing.
Okay. So 2 things. One, I wouldn't give her raw hides.
Okay.
You know about raw hides, right?
No, they're not raw. They're called no hide.
Oh, I got you. So
yeah,
the no hide raw
it's
hide.
the no hide raw hide.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Just so we know that, because that can get stuck in your throat.
100%. Yeah, it's not a real.
Okay.
Yeah, nope.
What I would do is set up times. Like, let's say you're going to just leave for like 10 minutes, or you're going to leave for a couple hours, because she can wear that for up to 2 hours. She can technically wear it longer, but remember, you want to rotate it every 2 hours because of pressure source.
Right. Yep.
Right? So, like, let's say you're gonna just like go down for lunch, right? You're gonna be gone for an hour. Is when you're gonna leave, and if she follows you, I'm gonna have you don't do any no hide stuff.
Okay.
But when you're going to go open the door, start tapping. Luna should back away, right? And then you're gonna turn to face her and tap, and she should turn away and go lay down somewhere.
Okay.
Okay? You're not saying anything. No go down, no stay, none of that stuff.
Can I say I'll be right back? That is her word. That's her thing. Like, I'll be done. I will, BRB is her phrase, knowing that I'm about to leave you.
Okay.
You're on your own. Or is that, like, terrible to teach that?
I don't have a problem with it.
Okay.
For me, I'm just like the dog, like, she's not going to retain, I'll be right back, and then 30 minutes later go like, oh, you did come back.
You did.
She doesn't connect that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because that's a human thing.
Okay.
So I don't, that's, again, human component.
Sure.
I don't care.
Okay.
But what I don't want you to do is to give some kind of command, sit, stay down, or whatever.
Okay.
So the reason, what you're doing here is you're leaving.
Yeah.
Luna goes, where are we going? And when you tap her, you're disengaging, where you're going, where she's going, Mom doesn't want me to be a part of this. And then when you turn to face her and you tap her, she should move away.
Okay.
I don't care what she does, sit, stay, lay down, jump on the couch.
What if instead of moving away, she tries to heel?
Then you would have to bump into her using your body.
Okay.
Where you push into her.
Because I'm seeing that happening.
As you tap, yes,
Yeah.
and that's very true.
Okay.
Until she walks away from you.
Okay.
Okay. And then let her settle. She might just sit down and like kind of look, or she might lay down on the couch, then leave.
Okay.
Okay. 15 minutes later, check her camera. 30 minutes later, check her camera, and see what happens.
Okay.
So what you do, because the anxiety is attachment. It's where'd Mom go, right? And when you do this, you're telling her, don't worry about where I'm going. This has nothing to do with you.
Right.
Just chill.
Right. You've got a whole apartment to yourself. You're not even in a crate. And you just enjoy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you go.
Yeah.
So you're disengaging her, and we're going to see if that starts to trickle out into other areas.
Okay.
Okay. It's the simplest way to go about it. Now the hard part would be, like, let's say you have to go back to work or something. You're gone for like 8 hours. Is that now there's an 8-hour gap? Is if she resets after 3 hours or something.
I'm going to be honest. I don't ever see a future in which I leave her for 8 hours. I think if I were ever to go back to work, she'd come to you. Like, she'd go to the facility.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
I don't ever see her needing to be alone for 8 hours at a time.
Okay.
I don't think I would ever do that to her. I
Okay.
just think she would be at a daycare. I'd be gone for 4 hours, and a friend would come over. I don't think she'd ever be home alone for an entire day.
Now, just be aware that mentality is also part of separation. Can you see that though?
Yeah.
Okay, because you're not wanting her to be alone.
Right.
Right? So it's kind of like with kids, the first day of school, my mom dropped me off, and I'm going to admit I cried. I
Sure.
called my mom, right? But then you get over it and you make friends, and oh wow, that's part of becoming an adult. That's the early stage of disconnecting, being independent, being away from the family. And I'll give you an example, and I've told this example to therapists.
Okay.
Ex-girlfriend,
Sure.
had a cousin, as a boy, single mom, dropped him off for the first day of school. He bawled his eyes out. She homeschooled.
Right.
Okay, and he's an adult now with issues.
Yep.
Okay, and when I told that to anybody, right there, you could
Sure.
just rattle off, that does
100%.
not sound
That's
good.
not a good idea. Yeah.
And I talk to therapists oh my God, no, you have to let them become independent. It's
Yeah.
it's part of that, right? And it's same thing for dogs. My dogs are completely independent of me. They
Okay.
could care 2 shits about me.
Okay.
Okay, and I love it because there's no
Are you
attachment.
listening?
Okay, I don't have to worry about anxiety and stuff, and I know it hasn't manifested itself to an extreme, right? But it doesn't mean things can't change.
Well, she does resource guard me sometimes around other
Well, there's
dogs.
that, right? There's
Is that or is that not connected?
Well, that's So like, think of it this way: child wakes up, parents are gone. Child is scared, but not for the parents' safety, but because they're alone. Okay. Parents wake up, child is gone.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Yeah, that's a good one.
It changes the perception. Okay.
Totally.
So when you're hers,
Yeah.
that's what matters. So like the separation anxiety of like where'd she go? I didn't give her permission to go. It's kind of like a mom losing her puppies and they cry for the puppies, right? Because they don't know where they are. They know they can't fend for themselves,
Right.
so it causes stress.
Sure.
Okay. So the resource guarding, yes, would be because you're not. I say you're mom, you're her mom, right? I do that for the human, but really she sees you as her property.
Right. She owns me.
Yeah. Because I had another client, his dog bit a few people, and I went and I to see what was going on, and then I was touching the dog, and the dog snapped at me, right? And then the owner was like, went to shelter him because the dog started shaking right after he tried to attack him. And I'm like, why are you petting him? Like, feel bad because he's scared. I'm like, just trying to attack me. He's like, well, yeah, you know. And he's bit two of your friends. Yeah. He's like, yeah, but I feel because he's shaking. I'm like, yeah, but he's shaking because he doesn't want to do that.
Right.
But instinctually, he's driven to. But then afterwards, he's not. It's like getting in a fight. Okay. Like some people can get in a fight and just walk away from like no deal. Right, and other people are like shaking. Right. They're like, "Oh my God, that was very stressful." Because that's not them. That's they don't want to do that. So that's where that shaking comes from. Okay, it's not a part of who they are. So it's the same thing for dogs. Okay, so but for him, it's that I was like, your dog views you as his property, right? Not because he loves you or because he's scared, because he's protecting you, but not a good protect. Right. You know, like
Can I ask a question? Why some dogs and not other? Why is she totally fine if I pet one dog and not another dog?
It can be either comfort with the dog, and you might think like, well, this dog she's known for like 10 months or something, or whatever. And it's whatever she thinks, you know, because it can be seemingly random. Like it can be the energy, you know, like I know what it is, it's just hard to explain it. Okay. Where, I mean, it's just like people. Like, I've met people that right off the bat just vibe with. Yeah. And I've also... I remember this only happened to me once, but I remember in college, I was in jazz ensemble, and we're like introducing everybody. I wasn't very good.
And
yeah, wasn't very good. And we shook hands. He's like, "Hi, I'm David. I'm Jesse." Didn't like him from the okay. Now, funny enough, we had a mutual friend, and like later on, I was talking to my friend, the mutual friend, or whatever, and he's like, "Hey, bro," he's like, "I gotta tell you, man." He's like, "David hates your guts." And I'm like, good, because I hate his guts. I hate him too. And I was like, I've hated him since the day I met him. He's like, bro, he said the same thing. You know, it happens, right? But obviously we're humans, and we were like at each other's throats and stuff. Like, we coexisted, but we just did not click, right? Same thing for dogs. And I've met people that I do become friends with them, but I don't open up to them like as quickly as I open to other people. Sure. You know what I'm saying? 100%. So it's the same thing with dogs. Yeah. You know, we're not that different, other than we see past, present, future. We have imagination. We have a complex language that you can, express a multitude of things. Right. Dogs are very primal. She's present. She either accepts or doesn't accept.
And if she doesn't accept, she's going to lash out.
Right.
Okay. And I usually tap her and pull her back. That's fine?
Yes, or prevent the situation. Yeah. Right? So I either remove her and then do what I want to do, or stop the dog, but there's nothing that can... Like, you don't know what's going to be on her mind, okay? And maybe a dog that she's been fine with, one day she's not. Okay. And then someone goes like, why, Jesse? I'm like, well, what about with you? Like, let's say I'm with my friends and, they're poking fun at me and we laugh it off and I laugh it off and laugh it off. And then one day I'm just like, I lash out. Right. Because I'm tired of it. Or, like, I didn't like the joke, or I'm in a bad mood. Or you had a bad day at work and then you're lashing out at your friends. All that stuff is a factor, right? Yeah. And you don't know her bad days and good days, but you can have an idea of it. But the only one that really does know is you. Okay, so I just look at it that way. So that's why I'm very proactive. Totally I go, always prevent stuff. We already know her habits, so that puts you a step ahead. Because, again, you have foresight, so it's like, oh, okay, like, dog's coming over. I know she's not going to like this. Get out of here. Right. And then, her hair just went off, or, she started painting. Yes. Whatever. So that puts you in an advantage. Okay? So I never put anything on the dog. They don't know any better. They're a 3 to 4 year old child. You're the adult. You're the human. You make all the decisions. Yep. All that stuff. I don't ever worry about how the dog feels about it because, yeah. Okay. Anything else?
No, thanks.
And she held that down
She's doing so good.
Well, I yapped my mouth for about 15 minutes. Okay, so.
It was a learning experience.
Yeah, well, that's why I do this stuff. Like,
Yeah.
even though it's a tangent and
Right.
we talk about other things, it's
It's
here.
her, yeah.
She didn't move for that entire time.
And she shifted.
Yeah.
That's good.
Now, I will point this out. Okay, now, my pit Lex, if I tell her to down, she will hold it like forever. Now, like 2 hours in, she might stand up and like loop around, and then she'll lay back down again.
Okay.
I know that about her. Okay, it's technically disobedience, but since I know her, and I'm like, she's just readjusting.
She's going to the other side.
Yes, I'm like, and she's going to be there for another 2 hours.
Okay.
Is I let it go because I know that. Some dogs will get up, act like they're going to readjust, and like, I'm going to go over here, right?
Okay.
Then I don't allow that kind of dog to do that. Okay.
Sure.
So even though I'm strict with my obedience, I go by what the dog gives me. If I have a very reliable, obedient dog, and they just like these little things, but it enables them to do that to that extent.
Okay.
Be
So
fine
just
with
see
that.
how she does with it, and then be as lax as she needs.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else?
No. Yeah. No.
Good job.
Good girl, Luna. Luna, break.
There she goes.
Good, Luna. That's her favorite word, by the way.
Break
Oh, yeah.
or good?